I would like to ask Professor Erzsébet to please proceed and with your presentation. I hope you can share if you have a PowerPoint, you can share it with us without a problem. Great.
I do. Thank you very much. First of all, سلام از بوداپست پایتخت مجارستان و لطفاً اجازه دهید اولاً برای این دعوتنامه عظیم تشکر بگویم. خیلی متشکرم. But I would like to speak in English, of course. Thank you very much again in English for the invitation. I got this very complicated topic from the organizers, and frankly speaking, I was thinking a lot about it, what to do. But then in the end, since I am a professor not only in Arab Shenasi, but Iran Shenasi Khundam, so I am dealing usually with the Middle East. But I also, I did my PhD in nuclear non-proliferation. So I am giving arms control and nuclear non-proliferation classes. And so I thought that this title rather reminds me of the very first introductory class, but building on that, how we come close to nuclear issues and nuclear proliferation, non-proliferation. When we speak about arms control in general, I don't have so many beautiful photos that Mia had. I'm sorry. I don't know. Does it? I cannot go further with my slides. Oops. Okay, what to do?
Is it from your PC or it's just
it's
not?
It's my PC.
Okay.
It's very important when we speak about arms control at all, that arms control, especially from the legal point of view, it is exercise, a state-run exercise. So like as international law cannot handle NGOs or non-state actors, arms control as well is usually built on state actors. And typically it's a state control activity. When we come to the nuclear issue, one of the first things that we have to notice that anything that is nuclear is dual use, which means that we can use it for civilian purposes, we can use it for military purposes. And since arms control and state actors are participating in arms control, which is always a process, and it is very important that especially we always aim at universality because it can be only safe for everyone if everyone is in it. Therefore, it is the states the military use or military activities. So this is why any state which is committed to an international legal undertaking is responsible also for all the domestic legal regulations, activities, also responsible for abiding by its international commitments. So this is a dual use responsibility for any state at all. And here I would like to emphasize that a nuclear capability, even when it is civilian, is regulated by the state actors. Although we do have that, apart from the regulation itself, we do have many different actors who are participating or who may participate in such activities. There are private companies who are mind you, nuclear program yet again is dual use. It can be civilian as well. Or there are the NGOs. The NGOs help to observe and carry out research, like Samia was explaining to us what they are doing about it. Or there is the international campaign to abolish nuclear weapons. There are publications Here I put in the landmine monitor, which is not exactly nuclear, but it may have a nuclear version as well. Landmines could, in principle, be nuclear weapons as well. There are the peace or anti-nuclear movements in several countries. They have stood up. And then there is the public opinion. Apart from everything else, there is the public opinion. If I connect back to Sania's presentation, the people, the local people in Algeria, especially those whose families were injured in the different French tests, this raises public opinion. Or when we speak about the burial of nuclear rubbish, nuclear rubble, that is again, sometimes a whole village may stand up or a whole town may stand up. No, don't have it buried in our neighborhood. Take it far away. So in spite of the fact that the state is overseeing all these activities and regulations, in spite of this, we can say that there are several non-state actors, NGOs, movements, and even the public at large may be included. And here I will again go further and share it again. Here I have a drawing of the nuclear non-proliferation as it has been established after the Second World War, as it has built up. And what I would like to claim is that therefore, since it's the states, it will be the political will of the state which will determine. If a state decides that it does not want to develop nuclear weapons, then it will be ready to join international agreements or treaties. And when these are in arms control, as I mentioned, these are usually aiming at universal. Now, multilateral arms control agreements like the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty, I will come to that a little bit later, or the Chemical Weapons Convention, or the Biological and Toxin Weapons Convention, usually include a verification mechanism because it was too early to be made in the Cold War, 1972. I usually tell my students that when you look at an international treaty always reflects the context and the age and the surroundings of the age when it is agreed upon and when its text is drafted. So this is why the Biological Weapons Convention has no verification mechanism, but the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty, the NPT, does have a very serious verification mechanism at the center of the IAEA, International Atomic Energy Agency. I think that its present head, Grossi, now may have a frequent flyer to Iran because he's going to Iran so many times to do the inspections and do the negotiations and work together. So verification is However, verification is not just international. Even there is a national verification. Your National Atomic Energy Agency, be it the Iranian or the Hungarian, goes to the sites and checks that everything is fine, looks at the minutes of the meetings, at the experiments, at the material, at the spent fuel, at the different sites. So the international verification is very closely dependent on the national verification, to the effect that usually they even tend to work together. I mean, when someone is going to check a nuclear power plant, be it Bushehr or be it in Hungary, the Paks, several times per year when they can do it combined together. So it makes sense. So this is why verification can be both an international obligation, but it is also a national activity. And this was the question of my presentation. In the 1990s, when the whole world was discussing Iraq and the nuclear weapons program by Saddam Hussein, then it turned out that there should, and also because of India and other states, it turned out that it would make sense to check our exports. Mind you, export control is not universal. Export control is not a treaty. It is like a club of like-minded countries who tend to share export results with each other. And we will announce to a table that we have exported to this and this country this and this technology or material. The others will also say it, and the others again. And then this way, maybe it turns out that yes, this country is really safe and free and truly abiding by its commitments, or to the contrary, it might be caught red-handed. Again, I would like to emphasize that export control is a non-obligatory issue. It is a cooperation between states. So while with the treaties we go for universality, export control regimes are usually approximately 40 countries that are playing together. For the nuclear issue, it is the nuclear suppliers group which is doing this activity. However, coming back to the political will, if a state decides that it wants to develop, or at least it wants to think of going toward nuclear weapons, then obviously what it will do, it will invent in industry, it will develop the regulations, it will develop knowledge. So if you see that in a country where there is no nuclear activity, from next semester on, 300 students start to study nuclear physics, then maybe you start to think what for. So knowledge, also technology, materials, equipment, and so on, but this rather remains a domestic capacity. However, this is where all the attention is focused, all the attention reaches together, either the verification or the export control or the development. So this is the domestic field where a state does have an overview, does have an important role to play, but this is where it all comes together. Yet, if you have a will, we may try to help you change your will or support your will. And this is where we have security guarantees or confidence building measures. Or we may give you advantages. We may say that, okay, if you do not develop nuclear weapons, you will get advantages. What can be that advantage? Free access to civilian uses of nuclear energy, mostly if we come to this. And yet again, sorry, I will check in to change my slides. I'm sorry that I can only, but I don't have too many slides, believe me so. Here, I have two slides, and that's mostly it. So what are the aspects of domestic control? The production of nuclear energy. Here again, we have a dual issue: safety versus security. Safety, obvious, the safe operation of a nuclear power plant, Bushehr. I remember once a Kuwaiti ambassador was adamant that safety at Bushehr is not certain. And I told him, well, ambassador, it is safe, it is safe. And then security, like we see the threats in the war of Russia in the Ukraine, when they are attacking maybe Zaporozhye or Chernobyl, the nuclear power plants. So yet again, in spite of the domestic state control, it can be a security or a safety issue. Then there is the public debate that I already mentioned, which can be on nuclear energy at all. Austria decided several years ago that we do not want to have nuclear power plants. Or then there are the environment protectors. I already mentioned the nuclear rubble. And then there are the nuclear tests Samia was speaking about. And then there are the movements. Then there is the production of nuclear knowledge. I already mentioned that. Then there is a whole body of domestic legal regulations. The National Atomic Energy Agency or Energy Organization, the parliaments do have a say. In Iran, I remember once we had Dr. Salehi speaking here in the Hungarian Academy of Sciences. It was several years ago, and he was speaking about such issues, the body of laws and regulations. And then, of course, there is the catastrophes, the man-made or natural catastrophe, protection from these, be it Hiroshima and Nagasaki, which was man-made, be it Chernobyl, which was also man-made, but it was a technical failure, or there was the natural in Fukushima. Everyone remembers that. Maybe that is still there. And yet again, I will be clumsy. I'm sorry. Yet again, I will be clumsy because I have another one. Yes. So in the meanwhile, I start to speak. So what other issue of can you see it? Yes, international state control. The treaties that I mentioned or other organizations. What kind of treaties do we have? We have the NPT, the Non-Proliferation Treaty, which prohibits for the non-nuclear weapon states to try to get in any way nuclear weapons. So this is their commitment. And since, according to the treaty, there are only 5 nuclear weapon states, 5 internationally legally not accepted, but their status was written down for the time being as the treaty foresees. These are, of course, US, United Kingdom, Russia, France, and China. All the others that are parties to the treaty are obliged to not to try to get nuclear weapons in any way, develop, buy from somewhere, cooperate with someone, accept from someone, nothing. Then we have, it was very interesting that this treaty was opened for signature in 1968. And it's very interesting that to this day, there are only 4 other countries which have tried and went for nuclear weapons: Israel, India, Pakistan, and North Korea. How come that in all these several decades, so somehow the system did operate? It was never faultless. It has always had a lot of fault lines in it, but it still seems to have operated so far. But it was not speaking on one thing, which is very, very important. And I usually tell my students that Ayatollah Khamenei, in his nuclear fatwa in 2004 or 5, I think 5 it was, he was already speaking about forbidding the use of nuclear weapons. Now, the international community could reach this point in 2017 with the nuclear weapon treaty on the prohibition of nuclear weapons. This is the first treaty under international law which has come to the point that no use, the use is illegal. Obviously, not everyone has joined this treaty. Then we have the nuclear tests. I do not want to go into that. And we have the very, very interesting idea of nuclear weapon-free zones. And these treaties, so if they are participating, then the verification system is valid for them. And then we have the security guarantees, which is still one more interesting part, which I would like to show you. The security guarantees and confidence building measures, and probably then my time will be up. I still have some. Okay, there are positive and negative security guarantees. With regard to nuclear weapons, a positive guarantee is when a nuclear weapon state provides those who are threatened or attacked with nuclear weapons, then they are coming to its help. The negative security guarantee means no attack, no threat. This is usually typical of the nuclear weapon-free zones, where the nuclear weapon states give this negative security guarantee that the United States will not attack any country in the Latin American nuclear weapon-free zone because they signed the annex to this treaty. Then there is a very interesting thing, the no first use commitment. This is a commitment, a saying. You announce it, you may withdraw it. By the way, the Soviet Union and China made such declarations. We will not use nuclear weapons first in any conflict. Then, when Eastern Europe and my country's NATO accession negotiations were going on, then Russia withdrew this commitment. UK, US, and France never made such commitments. The farthest who went there was President Barack Obama, who declared that the US will not attack first with nuclear weapon a country which abides by the Non-Proliferation Treaty. So this was the farthest that any American president could go. Then we have several other bilateral or small regional negotiations, the non-attack on nuclear sites. India, Pakistan, there is an agreement. Or in the Pelindaba Treaty, which is the African nuclear weapon-free zone, it is included already that the states parties to the treaty will not attack each other's nuclear installations. However, I already mentioned the threat in the Russian-Ukraine war. Then we had the ABM Treaty. We have the NPT review conferences, which one is coming up next year. There will be an immense lot of discussion. I'm sure that the 12-day war between Iran and Israel will also be negotiated from this point of view. And there are also many others. Blah, blah, blah. I still have 2 maps and 1 slide. Can you take it still?
Maybe in 40 seconds, if you can wrap it up.
Okay, then just I will show you the maps. Okay, just I will show you the map, the NPT map. I'm sure it's very easy to look it up. This is the map of the NPT, the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty. And I think just would like to remind you that when we spoke about the universality, the need to be universal, here we see that we have 191 states parties to the NPT. This includes the 5 nuclear weapon states, but with the caveat that they, at the moment, still have their nuclear weapons. But under Article 6, they are obliged to go on, in principle, to go forward nuclear disarmament. And then we have the other treaty. I will not show the map. Anyone can find it on the Wikipedia or elsewhere, which is the nuclear ban treaty, which bans the use of nuclear weapons. It is very far from universal at the moment. It has like 120, no, less, around 100 states parties. So we still need many countries. My country has not joined it either, I am sorry to say. And then, dobare tashakkur migoyam. Thank you very much.
Thanks so much. It was very sweet to hear you speak Farsi. Thanks for that too. It was very interesting how you addressed the issue of state control and state exercise when it comes to nuclear issues, how safety and security interplay, and they're both important. And it was an interesting point also that you brought up that Iran's Ayatollah Khamenei issued the fatwa against the use of nuclear weapons well before the quote-unquote international community came to an agreement to ban it. Also the map, that's an interesting display of which countries are actually a member of non-proliferation treaty. Of course, the threat of those who do have it, and especially the ones that have actually used it or have done nuclear testing before. You're not sure the threat still exists there, but I think it's also very important to remember how Israel, a state with nuclear weapons, with a history of wars against different nations, possesses nuclear weapons and is not a member of the NPT.